And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
I think a lot of you here today may have seen newspaper pictures of our guest we have with us. She's Miss Sally Kroll of 1213 Knowlburn Place. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. That's in Staten Island, Miss Kroll?
Yes.
Hello there.
How do you do?
Miss Kroll, would you hold up the payroll check issued to you by the bank where you work as a teller?
All right, where did I find it? There.
I don't know why you folks in the audience are reacting. You can't possibly read the amount from down there. Miss Kroll, will you tell the audience how much that check is for?
Well, this check is made out to me, Miss Sally Kroll, 1213 Knowlburn...
Well, just the amount, Miss Kroll.
Oh. The check is made out to me in the amount of $65,012,000.
That's better. Now, as I understand it, that's your weekly salary check. Is that right, Miss Kroll?
Well, yes, it's my weekly salary check, all right, but I don't kid myself with that I'm worth $65 million and 12 cents a week. Far from it.
Well, would you tell us what is your regular salary, Miss Kroll?
Take-home pay $65.12. You see, there's a mistake was made in the payroll department.
By whom?
By Ernest Cleaves. Now, he works the automatic check machine and payroll, and he made a mistake and added a lot of extra zeros to my weekly paycheck.
I believe, Miss Kroll, that you have every right to cash that check, even though a mistake was made.
That's right. I can cash this check any old time I want to, but I'm having more fun showing it around, so I'm going to hold on to it for a while.
And what does Ernest Cleaves, the man who made a mistake about the amount of the check, have to say about all that?
Well, he called me last night, told me he felt like a real sap. He asked me to do him a favor and tear up the check.
Are you going to, Miss Kroll?
Well, I'd like to help him out, but I can't throw away $65 million just like that. It's just uneconomical.
Well, do you think the bank will deduct money for Mr. Cleaves' salary because of the mistake he made?
Yes, they're going to be deducting $5 a week from his salary.
See, at that rate of payment, it'll take Mr. Cleaves just about 13 million weeks to clear up his indebtedness to the bank. That's a long time, isn't it, Mr.
Well,
Kroll?
that's his lookout. Maybe he'll pay a little more attention to what he's doing after this.
Tell me what the bank's attitude has been about all this.
Well, I think they'd like me to tear up the check, too.
Have they been nicer to you at the bank recently?
Well, they let me smoke behind the teller's cage now. And they told me it was okay for me to wear an evening gown on the job.
Now, you think the reason they're being so nice to you at the bank may have something to do with the $65 million
Well, I'm
check?
no fool. I know there's a reason why they're being so nice to me at the bank lately. Personally, I believe the reason is because the bank's assets total only $64 million.
So if you wanted to be a mean person and cash the check, you could get the bank into trouble.
That's right.
Want to hold up the check once more for our audience?
Sure.
Now, take a good look at it, folks. It's probably more money than most of you earn in 10 years. And thank you for being with us today, Miss Kroll.
Here's an important message from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Friends, despite our rigid quality control system at the Einbinder factory, several thousand rolls of flypaper have been released to the public with stickum that could become defective under certain conditions. So if you bought flypaper recently that bears the manufacturer's code number 38293 or 38294, return it to the plant for new stickum at once. And while you're waiting for it to be returned to you, better protect your family by going out and buying some new flypaper. When you do, be sure you insist on genuine Einbinder, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations. And we've just received word now that correspondent Wally Ballou is standing by in Springfield, Ohio, with a special report. So to learn what it's all about, let's switch now to Springfield and Wally Ballou.
Lee Ballou speaking directly from the Municipal Zoo in Springfield, Ohio, and I'm chatting with the director of the institution, Mr. Logan Pitney. As I understand it, Mr. Pitney, you contend that this zoo is the only one of its type in the world. Is that right?
Well, we just don't contend it is, Mr. Ballou. We're virtually positive. In fact, I've visited most of the major zoos around the world myself, and I've never seen another one like this.
Well, I don't want to offend you, sir, but I was walking around the grounds before we went on the air, and I didn't see anything different about it. I mean, it's a lot smaller than most zoos, and the animals appear to be in worse condition, but outside of that, it seems just like all the others.
I see. Approximately how much time did you spend touring the grounds?
Oh, I'd say about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour.
And you don't feel any twinge of anxiety to speak of?
Well, I admit my nerves are kind of on edge, but I assume it's just another breakdown coming on.
Oh, I'm sure you can attribute it to the fact that our zoo is the only one of its type in the world.
Well, I don't see how you could claim credit for my emotional instability if that's the whole problem.
Well, I wouldn't expect you to, because the whole thing really operates on the unconscious level. In fact, most people never become aware that they're uncomfortable because all the animals are staring back at them.
I beg your pardon?
Well, it's very simple, actually. In your average zoo, the people stare at the animals, but the animals don't pay any attention. Now, here we've trained them all to stare back. And so far, nobody's been able to stand it for more than 45 minutes at a time.
Well, now that you mention it, I did get sort of a vague feeling the animals were watching me pretty closely, but, well, I don't know. I thought it was just because my tie needed straightening or something like that.
Well, straightening the tie, combing the hair, common early symptoms. But when the animals keep staring, some visitors get the wild illusion that they've come down here stark naked. And they run home screaming.
Well, what's the purpose of all this? Are you trying to drum up business for a chain of sanitariums or something like that?
No, not at all. It really started because the zoo is not nearly large enough for the city, and a lot of people were complaining that they couldn't fight their way through the crowd to see the animals at all. So we decided that something would have to be done to get the visitors in and out in a hurry and to give somebody a chance.
Well, that makes sense, but, you know, it still seems pretty diabolical to...
I'm sorry, did that...
Seems diabolical to drive...
Did that get on you?
to drive the people away in hysterics by having the animals stare at them, you know?
Well, we just stumbled across the solution accidentally, Wally. See, we noticed that hardly anybody spent much time looking at the ocelot because the ocelot was always looking at them. So we simply trained the other animals to do the same thing. And, well, the rest is history.
Well, just one more question, sir.
Excuse me, but I really can't answer any more questions. That kangaroo over there hasn't taken his eyes off me since we began, and I just know I'm getting another one of those sick headaches, you know? Goodbye.
All right, Mr. Pitney seems to be deserting his post and running toward the main gate. So then this is Wally Ballou in Springfield, Ohio, sending it back to Bob and Ray in New York. And now we return again to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There, in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As action begins, young Rodney Murchfield is still being held by kidnappers in a deserted shack somewhere on an unpaved road. Meantime, his evil brother Caldwell is at the Murchfield Lead Mining Company, where he finds head bookkeeper Emery Humdorf keeping the books. Caldwell speaks.
Good morning, Humdorf. I gather that Rodney isn't here again today?
No, I believe he's still being held by kidnappers in a deserted shack somewhere on an unpaved road. Can I help you?
Yes, possibly so. There's been a demand for almost $10 million in ransom to assure Rodney's release. Do your books show that my mother could raise that kind of money?
Oh, yes. Miss Agatha has a good deal more than that. But she's a careful woman with a dollar, and I doubt if she'd put a book value on Rodney of more than $5 million. He's a bit slow-witted, and I hear he needs some expensive dental work, too.
Sure, still, Mother might go for the full 10 mil.
Why are you so interested in the financial aspects of Rodney's kidnapping, Caldwell?
Because I need to know how much longer he may be held captive. You see, I've put a foolproof scheme into motion. Just give me 1 week without Rodney snooping around here, and I can gain control of this entire company, lock, stock, and barrel.
Egad, Caldwell, I knew you were a devious scoundrel, but...
Thank you, Emery. I've admired your work, too.
Now, let me finish. Caldwell, I was remarking that even though you're a devious scoundrel, I never thought you'd try to seize the family business. I wonder what Miss Agatha would do if she suspected this.
Well, I'm delighted that this do-it-yourself form for drawing up a new will has arrived, Wilfred. Now I can go ahead with my plan for cutting Caldwell off without a red cent.
As you wish, Mum.
Well, that's definitely what I wish. Caldwell's been a terrible disappointment to me. He leaves his clothes hanging on the doorknobs. He stole a cheap ashtray from a saloon to give me for Mother's Day. Now I suspect that he's trying to take advantage of Rodney's kidnapping to seize control of Murchfield Lead.
I wouldn't know about that, Mum, but if you'll pardon the impertinence, should a woman of your means be writing a new will on a do-it-yourself form? There's talk among the servants below stairs that you have $8 billion in the bank.
Well, it's closer to $9 billion now. I've also opened a Christmas Club account. But that still doesn't mean I should shell out a fat $30 fee to some lawyer to write a will when this form, complete with each of the follow instructions, was only $1.98.
Yeah, that's true, Mum, but if you'll pardon the impertinence, how can you cut Caldwell out of your estate when Rodney may already have been done in by kidnappers? There's no one else to leave your money to.
Well, nonsense, Wilfred. There are all sorts of people. The mailman is a nice chap. And then there's the lady who feeds the cat when I'm out of town.
Yes, Mum. If you'll pardon the impertinence, Mum, I notice that you're starting to fill out that form without putting on your glasses.
Well, I misplaced them around here somewhere, and I admit I can't see beans without them. Could you find the line where the beneficiary's name goes and write in Charlie the mailman?
Of course, Mum. I'll fill in everything real nice for you. Then there'll be nothing left for you to do but sign it quickly.
Wonderful. My stars. I just wonder what my high-priced attorney, Bowden Pardue, would say if he ever found out how nicely I'm handling my own legal affairs for only $1.98.
Your Honor, the medical report shows that Miss Agatha is crazy as a loon. I ask that I be given power of attorney to handle her affairs.
Well, I'll have to give that some study, Mr. Pardue. The economy of this entire state is controlled by the Murchfield family, and I'd hate to think what might happen if the power fell into the wrong hands.
Will Caldwell succeed in grabbing Agatha's fortune before she succeeds in cutting him out of her will, before Bowden Pardue succeeds in gaining control for himself? Can Wilfred resist the temptation to write in his own name in Agatha's beneficiary? And what about Charlie the mailman? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear the judge say,
Well, let's just split it up among ourselves. Who'd ever know?
That's next time when we resume our story of endless intrigue on Garish Summit.
Now, the Monongahela Metal Foundry, maker of extra shiny steel ingots for home and office use, invites you to ride with the men of Squad Car 119.
My name's Sam Finch. Me and my partner, Ralph R. Kruger Jr., are the unsung heroes of the police force. We ride a prowl car at night. Sometimes it's cold and windy, other times it's not. But either way, we keep on the lookout for trouble. The other evening, we'd just gotten back into the squad car after our dinner break when my partner, Ralph R. Kruger Jr., turned to me and said,
Say, what do you suppose ever became of wax paper, Sam?
well, it beats me, Ralph R. Kruger Jr. I thought it was still around.
You never know it from the way the wife wraps my lunches now, Sam. Stuff sure tastes different when she used wax paper.
Yeah, I guess it would, all right. Just one thing, Ralph R. Jr. Why are you eating your lunch now when you just finished dinner?
Well, it's only a diet lunch, Sam. See, cottage cheese, carrots, celery. The wife thinks I ought to take off some weight.
Yeah, good idea. Losing a few pounds can make you feel a lot better.
Oh, yeah, extra weight really drags you down, Sam. I even feel logy from eating that heavy restaurant food just to keep you company. Too much food in the stomach really drags you down.
Calling car 119. Car 119, meet a citizen asking for police assistance at 4473 North Ocean Park. A citizen asking for assistance.
That's us, Sam. Let's roll.
That's funny. I can't seem to shift out of reverse.
Well, you have to push in the clutch to shift, Sam. Try pushing in the clutch.
I already pushed it in, Ralph R. Kruger Jr., but that didn't help. I'm still in reverse.
Well, I better get out and take a look, Sam.
Yeah.
Look, don't do anything till I tell you. Okay, Sam. Start her up easy now. Hold it. Stop right there. Hold it. You were backing up, Sam. I didn't mean for you to back up.
I didn't want to back up, Ralph R. Jr. The gear's stuck in reverse.
Sure beats me. If you were pushing in the clutch, that shouldn't happen. Were you pushing in the clutch?
Yeah, I got it pushed in, but the gears won't shift.
Sure beats me. That shouldn't happen once you push in the clutch.
Car 119, disregard that call to meet a citizen asking for police assistance at 4473 North Ocean Park. The case has been handled by the men of Squad Car 62. The suspect has been apprehended, booked, and brought to trial. In 1 minute, the results of that trial.
And while we're waiting to hear the outcome of this week's exciting case, here's a vital warning for homemakers from the Monongahela Metal Foundry. Ladies, dull, corroded steel ingots can make even the most attractively furnished room look dead and lifeless. Don't let your friends think you're a slovenly housekeeper just because your ingots are too far gone to polish. Replace them now from the wide selection available at your Monongahela showroom.
The citizen asking for police assistance in that case at 4473 North Ocean Park was convicted on one count of annoying police officers by asking for assistance. Annoying a police officer is punishable by a term in the state penitentiary of not less than 6 months or more than 30 years.
And so another desperate criminal is brought to justice, thanks to the unsung heroes of the police force, the men who ride the squad cars at night. Now, it's time for Dining Out with Bob and Ray, the informative feature that helps guide you to some of the lesser-known but truly outstanding restaurants around New York and around the world. Bob, I believe your adventure in dining out this week took you to a new and unusual French cafe right here in Manhattan.
Yes, it did, Ray. I had an evening full of surprises at Marcel's by the Sea, which just opened recently over on West 83rd Street.
Well, I think that one of the biggest surprises would be finding a restaurant on West 83rd Street called Marcel's by the Sea. There's no sea over in that neighborhood, as I recall.
That's true. I asked the owner about that. He had a logical explanation. He said that his name isn't really Marcel. So he didn't think calling the place Marcel's by the Sea was any more dishonest than just calling it Marcel.
No. Well, I guess he's lying either way. But apart from that little bit of deceit, What other surprises did you find awaiting you there at Marcel's by the Sea?
Well, I think the most intriguing thing for a person on a limited budget is the fact that there are no prices listed on the menu. And besides that, the waiters pretend not to understand English, so you don't have any idea how much your meal costs until you receive the check.
Well, that really does lend a note of excitement to dining out. I suppose it's quite possible to receive a check for more money than you're carrying at the
yes,
time.
Indeed it is.
Ah.
Of course, printing the menu entirely in French means that most patrons don't know what they're ordering, in addition to not knowing how much it costs.
Well, that truly makes for an evening of adventure. And was the cuisine up to your expectations?
I think it was. I'm still not sure whether the thing they brought me was a veal cutlet or a breaded pork chop, but it came complete with canned peas and 2 slices of bread, and the price was $19.50, and I'd really been terrified it might be more than that. So
Well, I don't think $19.50 is bad at all. You know, when you consider the fact that Marcel had you completely at his mercy with no prices on it.
That's right. Except, as I said, his name wasn't really Marcel. Now, I'm sure our beloved friends would be interested in hearing about the spot you chose to visit for our dining out feature this week.
Well, technically speaking, I didn't dine out this week, Bob. I paid a call on the old plantation chicken takeout in Yonkers.
Mm-hmm.
And as the name implies, you merely buy the food there to take out and eat at home. But I'd heard that the southern atmosphere around the takeout counter makes the whole experience well worthwhile.
Well, I think our listeners would be delighted to learn about a takeout joint that has a touch of real atmosphere, so many of them just give you a hard bench to sit on while you're waiting, right?
Well, that certainly isn't true of the old plantation, Bob. There are authentic antebellum porch swings hanging from the ceiling for the use of patrons, and there's a recording of crickets chirping that adds a lot to the overall effect. And the girls only turn that recording down when they have to yell out a number, that's ready to be picked up.
Well, I imagine the leisurely diner is almost reluctant to pick up his order and leave when the time comes.
Well, at least that was surely true in my case. I just gotten into a discussion there on the porch swing with a fine old gentleman, and he was telling me how to spot the thoroughbred bloodlines in the Tennessee walking horse.
Oh, I guess he was waiting there for his order, too, huh?
No, I think he was just a shill employed by the management to lend more atmosphere. I heard him reciting the same exact speech about walking horses to another customer as I was leaving.
Well, even so, it's a nice touch for the owners to provide an old gentleman for you to visit with. What about the quality of the food? Did it meet your usual high standards?
Yeah, each item was attractively put up in a separate cardboard carton, and the whole order was placed inside a large white sack. Of course, I'd ordered chicken breasts and whipped potatoes, and I found out when I got home that they'd given me drumsticks and a 2-quart container of gravy with nothing to put it on. But, outside of that, I was well pleased.
Well, I think most takeout restaurants make a practice of giving you the wrong order, so that's to be expected. Now, I suppose we'll both be setting forth this coming week in search of more of those little-known but truly first-class dining establishments around town.
Yeah, we still have quite a list of recommended spots to check out. So we'll be reporting back on a few more of them very soon. But once again, it'll be time to go dining out with Bob and Ray.
Well, that would do it. Does it for this meeting of the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show. We would like to call your attention to the fact that it was produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson, a man who just can't bring himself to eat California prunes on his waffles.
And Marjorie Van Halteren is our associate producer. Marjorie tells me she's never met anybody who knows David Bowie personally.
Our technical director was Malcolm Addy.
Our musical director was Paul Taubman. And the man with the sound effects was Al Schaefer.
Audio engineers Mike Moran and Pat Martin, and our production assistants Diana Freed and Stuart Zagat.
Funding for the Bob and Ray Show in part by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund.
And this is Ray Goulding reminding you now to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.
And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
Thank you.
Hey, gosh, Paul, good to see you playing those old numbers again.
We are welcoming Paul Taubman at the organ. Actually, it's the Paul Taubman Trio -2.
Many of you listeners have plans for the coming week that can only be carried out if there's good weather in your area. And that's why we've received numerous letters asking us to interrupt the entertainment portion of our show long enough to bring you a complete nationwide forecast.
Well, actually, we haven't received too many letters asking us to interrupt the entertainment portion of our show to do that. As I recall, we've had more letters asking us to put some entertainment into the show.
Well, I don't have an actual mail count, but my point here is that we've gotten some budget money to set up a Bob and Ray meteorology department. So we're going to start presenting national weather forecasts, whether anybody wants to hear them or not.
Well, that's a more straightforward explanation.
Sure.
We do have a new forecasting department on the top floor of our building. We've also used part of the appropriation to hire 2 new expert meteorologists, Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach. You probably heard of them.
So, as a public service to those of whose livelihoods may depend on an accurate national forecast, we switch now to Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach at the weather desk.
Well, thank you, Bob and Ray. This is Charles L. Bernbach speaking from Weather Central. I'm standing in front of our large computerized weather map, and at the moment, it shows a lot of red streaky lines all through the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, Charlie, do you want your eggs hard or medium?
Medium is fine.
I got you.
Hey, here you go. I never realized those microwave ovens made so much noise.
I noticed turning it off caused those streaky lines on our weather map to move south into California. And then, as you listeners farther inland already know, the streaky lines changed to little black dots over the Rocky Mountain area.
Excuse me, Charlie, but don't you think we should refer to those streaky lines as rain and the little black dots as snow?
Well, I'm not sure what they are, Walt. We learned to put weather symbols on the map by hand when I went to meteorology school, and I never saw anything like the stuff this computer makes. Our streaks always slanted to the right, and these slant to the left.
Well, I think they mean rain, no matter which way they slant. I might add that they're now moving across our weather map toward the state that's the third one in from the west coast, and the second one up from the bottom there.
Well, I don't think it would hurt to mention the state by name, Walt. That's Utah, where they're now having streaky lines.
No, I seem to recall that Utah is pointy on the bottom, and this state is square. Well, I think that means you listeners in Wyoming can look for some rough weather tonight, either there or in New Mexico.
Well, I don't see how a guy could get out of meteorology school without knowing the states on the map, Walt. We learned those when I was just a sophomore, and that one's Utah.
Well, I don't know why you make such a big deal out of it. Our teacher told us that nobody lives in those states out there anyway. We just memorized the eastern ones. Speaking of that, I see a big letter H over Vermont and New Hampshire. That means it'll be hot up there tomorrow.
You know, you're really beginning to make a complete fool of yourself, Walt. That H doesn't stand for hot. It's some kind of thing in the air. I remember they talked about it in Meteorology 104.
Well, that's just about as vague as everything else you've been saying. What do you think this big L down here at the bottom stands for, then?
That's the abbreviation for Louisiana. Runs across there.
Oh, I guess that's right. Well, they're sure having a lot of rain down there.
Assuming that's what the slanty lines mean when they point the wrong way like that.
Well, I'm sure they mean rain pointing either way. And it's even worse down here in the ocean, where this swirly thing is going around.
I believe the computer just makes it look like it's going around, Walt. That thing down there is Puerto Rico.
Well, we can forget about it then because we don't give the forecast for Puerto Rico.
Right. So here in the continental United States, neighbors, you can look for slanty lines in California and Louisiana tonight, changing to black dots in Utah.
Or New Mexico, if that's what it turns out to be. Also a big H over New England, upstate Ohio.
That's upstate New York.
Yeah, at least a 50% change there, too. Well, this is meteorologist Walton Krager, speaking for Charles L. Burnback and myself, and sending it back downstairs to Bob and Ray. Say, here's great news of a wonderful offer from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Now you can receive a beautiful lapel pin that's a lifelike replica of a giant horsefly at no cost whatsoever.
Just mail in the proof of purchase sticker from 3 large-size strips of Einbinder flypaper, and the pin is yours absolutely free. Now, the horsefly pin makes an ideal accessory for either ladies or gentlemen, with all 8 of its legs painted in gleaming black enamel. The wings are a lovely transparent mother of pearl. There's a simulated emerald set right in the insect's hindquarters that's sure to gain compliments from all your friends.
Now, you'll want to have one of these gorgeous pins for yourself and several more to give as gifts for almost any occasion. So stock up on Einbinder flypaper now and send in your proof of purchase stickers. But be sure you insist on genuine Einbinder, the flypaper you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
Right now, we'd like to welcome you to a Bob and Ray public service feature, Widen Your Horizons, the educational portion of our show where we help guide you to a fuller, happier life through the acquiring of new knowledge and skills. Today, our guest lecturer is Mr. Dalton Vingus of the Toledo Timepiece Company. Mr. Vingus, I see you have everything ready there for your demonstration of how to set an alarm clock.
That's right, Mr. Elliott. Now, this is really a vital skill to acquire in our modern society, where getting up on time has become increasingly important.
You mean to get to work, things like that?
Exactly. Our figures show that almost everybody who has a job is supposed to get there at the proper time. But 93% are usually late, even though many of them have an alarm clock in the home. So that can only mean that very few know what those buttons and keys on the back of the clock are supposed to be used for.
You know, that's kind of amazing, especially in the case of a clock like the one you brought along today. It has 2 big bells on top, and you'd think people would assume those bells have some purpose.
Well, our studies indicate that most buyers expect little figures to crawl out from under those bells to forecast the weather. And, of course, while they're waiting for that to happen, they oversleep.
And then the need for your helpful instruction is even more urgent than I thought. Go ahead and continue, will you?
Very well. Now, first, it should be noted that one side of the clock has numbers and hands on it, while the other side has keys and buttons. We're now dealing chiefly with the key and button side, which is called the back of the clock.
And it's important to remember that technical name for it, I guess, huh?
Well, not really, no. You can call it whatever you want, but you do have to remember that the keys must be wound to make the clock run like this.
Mr. Vingus is turning first one key and then the other to put the mechanism into operation. Now he's turning both of them to his left, which would be counterclockwise.
Yes, and that's important to remember. Turning to the right, you see, just unscrews the keys and makes them fall out of the floor.
Well, now the winding is complete, and I'm sure you can all hear that loud, annoying tick. Is that designed to keep people awake all night so they'll be sure to get up on time, Mr. Dingus?
Yes, but we strongly advise setting the alarm, too, just to make the entire mechanism completely fail-safe.
Okay, now, suppose you'll be demonstrating how to set the alarm next, huh?
Next, I'll demonstrate how to set the alarm, Bob. Now, that's done by turning this button marked Alarm Set. And purely for demonstration purposes, we'll set it for 8 o'clock.
You mean we have to wait around until then to see how this works?
No, we can simulate that. But before I do, I want to stress the importance of pulling out this little knob marked Alarm Pull. Now, many people with a good knowledge of alarm clocking let it all go to waste by forgetting to do this one thing.
Nothing happens if you don't pull the alarm pull, eh?
Well, it may give a small click, but not loud enough to wake you up. So I'm seeing that the alarm pull is carefully pulled, and then I'll turn the hands around to simulate 8 o'clock here.
8 o'clock.
And we have contact at precisely 0800.
Well, that would certainly wake a person, all right. You can shut it off now if you want.
Well, I'm trying to. This isn't like mine at home. There should be a button here someplace marked Alarm Off or Alarm Push. I don't seem to find it.
Well, then take it out in the hall and hunt for it, will you?
Yeah, maybe I'd better. I guess I shouldn't have brought a model I'm not thoroughly familiar with.
Well, never mind that now. If you just leave, go out by that door.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry about this.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. Well, he did get it to ring, and that's the important thing, I guess. And you join us next time when, once again, we'll guide you to a fuller, happier life on our public service feature, Widen Your Horizons. Time now for another visit to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action begins, the hollyhocks at the rear of the Murchfield estate are being carefully pruned by Lloyd the gardener. Suddenly, a young boy enters the grounds over the barbed wire fence nearby. Lloyd puts down his pruning shears and speaks.
Hey, you better climb right back over that fence, young fella. Miss Agatha turns the dogs loose on trespassers around here.
She wouldn't do that to her own flesh and blood. You see, I'm Spanky Murchfield, the grandson she doesn't know she has because my father is her son, Caldwell, who doesn't know I exist. It all happened by a previous marriage.
I didn't know Miss Agatha had been married more than once.
She hasn't. I'm talking about Caldwell's previous marriage. Incidentally, I assume you're Lloyd the gardener.
That's right. How'd you know my name?
Oh, I've done research on all the hired help. You see, I plan to inherit the Murchfield billions by replacing Miss Agatha's authentic will with this forgery. But I need a trusted person on the inside to make the switch. How about it?
Oh, I couldn't. I've been mowing and edging for the Murchfields since 1938. I'm like one of the family. And when I retire, Miss Agatha's going to charge me very little rent to live in that old shed behind the barn.
Well, don't bore me with sentiment, pal. I'm proposing a big deal here. I've saved up almost $26, and it's all yours just for putting this phony will in the safe.
Well, that does sound like easy money. Come to think of it, I never did like Miss Agatha's two sons, Rodney and Caldwell. I wonder what that boorish lout Caldwell would be doing right now if he knew about your scheme to cut him out of the old lady's will.
I can't believe what you're saying, Master Caldwell. I've been Miss Agatha's trusted butler for 32 years, and now you're suggesting that I break the servant's code of honor.
Don't be such a Boy Scout, Wilfred. I just got a tip that Lloyd the gardener plans to substitute a fake will for Mother's real one. So all I want you to do is replace that forgery with this one, naming me as the sole heir.
No, it just wouldn't be cricket for one who's made a career of domestic service. And besides, if I may say so, sir, you've struck me as something of a creep ever since you came here claiming to be Miss Agatha's long-lost son.
Well, you better watch your mouth, or you could talk yourself out of some big money. I borrowed $50,000 from petty cash at the office today. And it's all yours if you can slip this bogus will into Mother's safe.
Yeah, I say that is a most generous offer, sir, and Of course, it would serve the purpose of cutting off your arrogant brother Rodney without a cent. I wonder what that wretched blighter would be doing right now if he had any notion of your clever scheme.
Gee, I don't know, Rodney. Will your brother really get all the dough if I can't slip this fake will into the old lady's safe?
Yes, Fingers. I'm certain that he's bribed Wilford the butler to replace the forgery that my nephew Spanky has bribed Lloyd the gardener to put in the safe, replacing the original. So, of course, the next step that must be taken is obvious.
Maybe. I'd have to think about it. But I'm not too long on brains.
Well, never mind. Money is what does the talking in cases like these. How much do you want to open Mother's safe in the library tonight and substitute this fake will for the other one?
Well, let me figure. I'd have to buy new wire clippers to get through the fence. Then figure $3 worth of meat to keep the guard dogs quiet. A skeleton key for the front door. All told, I guess $9,800,000 would do it.
Well, I was hoping for an estimate that would run a little lower.
Well, look at it this way. If the job's done right, you'll get a 50-room mansion, the family business, and about $3 billion in cash. But if the job's done wrong, you'll get 10 years in the slammer. So just ask yourself, is it worth pinching pennies?
No, I suppose not. Of course, it may take most of the afternoon for me to embezzle $9,800,000 from the firm, but somehow cutting my evil brother off from the family fortune makes it all worthwhile.
Will Rodney regret hiring a sleazy crook who doesn't even have references from a previous employer? Can Lloyd the gardener succeed in cracking a safe with no tools except his pruning shears? And how can Spanky explain his absence from school? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear the family attorney say,
Her real will was the one I kept at my office. It leaves everything to her pussycat.
That's next week when we resume our story of petty bickering on Gary Summit.
You know, there is a difference in ball bearings, and Coogan's makes that difference. Coogan's scientifically make sure that each and every one of their ball bearings is not only round, not only smooth, but that it's pitless. They come in 3 handy sizes, 10, 25, and 50-cent packages, and you'll find them wherever ball bearings are sold. They make wonderful gifts for Father's Day, too. Remember the name Coogan's. B-A-L-L-B-E-A-R-I-N-G-S. Coogan's. I think we have just time for a gentleman who's come to present a reply to a recent Bob and Ray editorial. We're always happy to grant equal time to qualified persons who disagree with us. In our editorial, we encouraged all of you viewers to get your flu shots early this winter. And now, speaking out against that editorial and in favor of influenza...
Hey, wait a minute. Hold it, pal. I never said I was in favor of influenza.
Well...
or any other disease in particular. I just happen to be the president of the East Coast Geranium Growers Association. So I'm sure you can appreciate my position.
Well, not really. We hadn't expected any opposition to the idea of people getting flu shots. I can't see why you're against them just because you grow geraniums.
Well, that's all contained in my statement of rebuttal here. My fellow Americans, distinguished geranium growers...
excuse me just a minute. Before you get into your statement, I need to finish introducing you and to present our disclaimer on anything you may say, okay?
Wait a minute. You want to turn the public against me before I've even opened my mouth?
No. It's just our legal department requires me to identify you as Mr. Wallace Pernoy of the East Coast Geranium Growers Association. Then I'm supposed to throw in a little comment that the opinions expressed by you are strictly your own and do not necessarily represent the views of this station or members of their families. Okay, you can go right ahead.
Well, gee, now that you've tried to turn the public against me before I say anything, I can see that I've got an uphill battle on my hands here.
No, not at all. You just go ahead.
I'm sure I can depend upon the spirit of fairness that's inherent in our American system to have my position heard without prejudice.
You certainly can. Just what is your position?
Well, I'd like to see as many Americans as possible get sick with the flu this winter.
I see.
No, I don't think you do. I'm not taking this stand out of any personal desire to see people suffer.
Well, go ahead.
It's just that taking bouquets of flowers to those who are sick is a national tradition, and geranium growers really look forward to each other's, good luck in the flu epidemic. It's a big selling season.
But just to make a fast buck, you actually hope people get sick. Is that what it turns out to be?
Well, I think I would have phrased it a little differently. However, I guess that's about what it boils down to. See, you got to realize that people who catch the flu are not the only ones who have it bad. See, being a geranium grower is no bet of another flower either.
No bed of roses, you mean?
I never mentioned the competition by name. We don't want people to be able to think of anything but geraniums when they walk into a flower shop to buy a bouquet for a sick friend.
I didn't realize that many people even considered buying bouquets of geraniums.
Well, they don't unless there's a real bad flu epidemic going on. And the florists are sold out of everything else.
I see.
Not that geraniums look too bad, but they really smell terrible. They're especially unpopular among sick people who may have a tendency to get nauseous anyway.
Right.
So it really takes a major outbreak of some illness for geranium growers to unload their supply of flowers.
I understand.
And we look upon the annual winter flu epidemic as our best bet.
Which is why you're here today, speaking out in opposition to our editorial favoring flu shots.
Exactly. Geranium growers are entitled to earn a livelihood without interference from busybodies like you. And so, in closing, I urge every loyal American to neglect getting a flu shot this winter.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pernoy.
Let's all pull together, get sick together, to make this the biggest year for geranium sales in our country's history. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, for this session, that's about it, leaving us just time for some well-deserved credits as follows.
The Bob and Ray Public Radio Show was produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson, who still thinks Viva Las Vegas is one of the best films ever made.
Associate producer is Marjorie Van Halderen, who oddly enough knows two persons named Zubin, neither of whom cares much about music.
Music here was provided by the warrior of the Wurlitzer, Paul Taubman. Our technical director was Malcolm Addy.
Our sound effects man was Al Schaefer, doing his favorite thing, making noise.
Our engineers were Mike Moran, Joe Lopes, and our production assistant, Tony Fitzpatrick.
Now, the funding, in part, was from the National Endowment for the Arts
and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting
through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund.
So now, until the next one, this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.